What's up, party people? We are here for the Packet live stream. It is Wednesday, September 17th. How you doing, boys?
Doing good. Doing good. It is a lovely Wednesday.
A nice little red candle to kick us off. I guess people, because today's the rate cut allegedly. We'll find out, but it looks like either people are faking the market out prior to a green candle, or they're pricing in a red candle.
Yeah, it's a little definitely a dicey scenario for this particular rate cut because people are saying that there's always like a pro and a con with cutting rates of what it indicates.
Right.
I was reading something, I don't know if I'll get this thing correct, but there's two kind of inverse actions that they're analyzing. One, by keeping the rates where they are and the effect that has on unemployment and also what that says about inflation, and then cutting rates and the effect that has on both unemployment and inflation. So it's like, I believe it's that when you cut rates, that inflation ends up going up and unemployment ends up going down. I think that's what ends up happening. But, if there's still some concerns around inflation, then you cut rates and you're basically just, taking the potential inflation impact, with that. So there's obviously positives. Cash becomes cheaper, but there's also negatives. And so I think there's this particular rate cut has, some variable indicators. So I've heard that even if the rates come down, it's not necessarily like a testament that the U.S. economy is doing fantastic or anything like that. So, and we certainly know that there's some big problems with the U.S. economy. Like I was reading about the fact that out of, I forget if it's 13 billion or 30 billion dollars worth of soybeans that China usually purchases from America per year, and this year so far they've purchased zero, and that's decimating the U.S. farmers who are now asking for a bailout, which is like, hey, I thought that tariffs were good, but it's certainly a little dicey moment in time. But for crypto, I mean, even though you're looking at a red candle, Bitcoin's still hanging out at $115,000. So
yeah, you can't shake a stick at that.
Yeah. I think the alts are still kind of tempered. I mean, although we got a massive pump for Solana, that's now up in that I think it went all the way as high as like 245 or something.
Yeah, it's at 233 right now.
230 something now, right now. So, and then essentially XRP is just hanging out in that like $3 range right now. But
yeah,
there's certainly.
I think we're up from last week. Last week was like 108 or something like that.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think Bitcoin was around the 108, 110 range. So it's certainly up a bit, and Ethereum's been holding strong,
So I would say if people think that they know that if they think that the rate cut's a sure thing, then it's priced in. It already happened. It happened last week and this week.
That's a great point. Yeah, it is a great point. And I think there's a 96% chance. It's so crazy that poly market is now like the bellwether for prediction. I also saw that they're going to go out and raise some funding at a $10 billion valuation, which is pretty interesting. But
I mean, like, it's the most accurate way to find out things now, Because it used to be like everybody could just be like, oh yeah, this is my opinion's right, and the other person says my opinion's right,
Right.
and then they get their newspapers, and the other person gets their newspapers.
Right.
But now that there's Polymarket, if it's something it's going to resolve, because I mean, if it's never going to resolve, then everybody can just think whatever they want. But with Polymarket now, like you can put money on the line, and so you can just go and find out. All right, what does the mob think is going to happen here?
Yeah.
Who's willing to put their money where their mouth is?
Yeah, it's a great point. So Polymarket's saying it's a 96%, over a 96% chance that there's going to be a rate cut this year. And there's only 3 more Fed meetings remaining this year, with one of them being today. So, or one of them having been over the last 2 days. So today, in approximately 2 hours, they're going to, we'll hear from, Fed chair on what their decision is. And I think it's pretty well predicted that they're going to lower the rate by approximately a quarter point today. So
that's what I
heard. To your point, maybe already that was the pump of Bitcoin from 110 to 115, so maybe everyone just sells it off.
They don't sell it off. It's just like it already did the pump. And now that's the new price for the new rate,
Right.
Well, it pumped up to 117, and now it's down to 115 and falling.
Yeah, even yesterday it was at 116, I think. So yeah definitely cooled off.
But you have to differentiate like what signal and what's noise, because these markets are extremely noisy.
Indeed, and there's a lot of manipulation for sure. So
yeah, it's funny because you watch these things and you watch like Jerome come out and he's like, "Good morning," and then it's like red candle. Like he hasn't even said anything. He just literally says one word.
There's some prediction. I've never looked it up, but there's something about how he makes his introduction and what that indicates that he's going to end up doing. I don't know. I could be wrong about that.
They use
AI. AI voice crap in order to try to guess what he's going to say by what he says in the beginning. I'm sure
like if he says like
has too much money, they're doing that.
Yeah, if it's like, hey, if it's a good morning with his like voice on a rise, or a good morning on a voice on a lower, then you know that it's gonna be all bad.
But that would mean the guy who's doing that analysis has so much money that he can just be like, so.
You don't even need to form a theory about it. You just shove it all into a machine learning algorithm, and then you put in the next video, and it just says buy or sell. And
yeah,
you have a 51% chance of being right. So on average, you make, it's like casino money. You make a little extra every time.
Yeah, if you're moving big enough amounts, it's going to be worth it. So.
Well, on the packet front, we were having a little spirited conversation prior to this. We're getting a few people hitting us up saying that their yields dropped, and that's but that's because a lot of those people were staking in the LP, and the yields stopped for the LP. So we were kind of discussing what's the next iteration now that we're going to be doing this kind of merger of the third airdrop to do some reprogramming. The question is, do we allocate some of the network steward funds to incentivize, to continue the incentivization of the LP?
Yeah,
and so we can kind of pick up that conversation here.
The problem that I think you were pointing out, first off, there would be coding required to automate that. But yeah, you were saying, Caleb, before we hopped on here, that you felt it was going to be, incremental at best,
It's super marginal, because think about it. Like, you've got X amount of people staking, right? And then you take 20%, 20% in addition to that, which is the network steward funds. And let's say you allocate all of it. Okay, so
just how much?
that increases the yield that you're getting. Let's say, supposing everybody is in the LP, which is not true, but let's just imagine that's increasing your yield by, everybody gets an extra 20%. So in 2 decimations, that's gone.
Right.
It's very, very marginal, basically.
Yeah. But I mean, it's marginal today, obviously, because as far as certainly from a cash standpoint, just because of the low price of the asset. But when things do heat up and you're back up at a higher number, we know that a million packet today is worth a lot less than a million packet was worth a couple years ago when it was worth tens of thousands of dollars. So it ultimately is potentially incrementally small, but it could be monetarily larger as the market cap increases. So I think it's something to consider in regards to the cash value at a later date. And the other piece of it is that there's basically a requirement for that money to stay in there, and it's a healthy amount of cash. I mean, it's pretty remarkable that 50%, well, I'd say maybe 40% of the entire market cap is available in liquidity. That's pretty impressive. And so obviously once the market cap increases, the 50% of that liquidity that's in packet is gonna increase, double, triple, quadruple as the price goes up from here. So the liquidity is gonna get even deeper. But for the people that have their packet and Ethereum in that liquidity, they're not receiving any remuneration, especially if there's nominal to zero trading, which is as things are today. And so to incentivize the people to keep their money in the liquidity pool, I think that's what we're talking about. And obviously today you could argue it's, I guess the best part about leaving your money in the liquidity pool is that you haven't spent it and there's a pathway for ETH to continue to go up. So at least that part of your, LP is, essentially a high yielding savings account.
Well, the thing that we talked about, I think we talked about on one of our calls, that what's cool about the LP is that you can keep half of your money in ETH and you can yield packet off of it. Because if it's in the LP and you're staking it, then you're earning it off. You're earning as if it's all packet. So like, if you have a million packet and the equivalent in Ethereum, then you're going to yield off of that as if you have
2 million.
Lack of better math, 2 million.
Yeah, no, that's accurate, and that is the benefit of leaving your packet in there. But assuming that you're yielding off of your LP, that's the key. Is like you have to stake the LP and you have to be yielding off of it. So that is certainly a factor on the on the traditional yield side, which is operating in the exact same fashion as the previous 63-year yield that was set up. That's how it was originally constructed from the beginning of the blockchain when it was proof of work, and that is now continuing. The LP yield of the million packet per day was recapturing the burned coins and using those as an incentive for people to put their money into the LP. And that's how we got so many lockups in the LP. And, when this thing does leg up, and you're back in the 20, 30, $50 million plus market cap, you're going to have a 50. You're going to see the LP would essentially, I guess it wouldn't 50x because only the packet side would 50x. So it essentially 25x. But if you go, we're approximately, let's say 475,000. Yeah, you'd have almost a $12 million liquidity pool, which is crazy. I mean, if you look at most projects that you could find on Deck Screener, even projects with billion-dollar market caps, most of them don't even have a few $1,000,000 in the LP, straight up. So this would be one of the larger liquidity pools in all of crypto, outside of like Aerodrome or things like that. But yeah, it would be a monstrous liquidity pool as is. So if there's an incremental yield coming off in the form of packet that's feeding off of the that's feeding off of the network steward allocation, even if it's like you said, Caleb, that would be at 100% of the network steward allocation, 20% of the yield, or even at 50% of it, let's say 10% of the yield. Yeah, the decimations eat it up incrementally, each period, but it's still a number. It still could be worth thousands or tens of thousands of dollars, every single month. So it's a bonus for the players that are keeping their funds in the LP, because that LP is powered by people's cash, people's Ethereum and people's packet. And it's, it started out as hundreds of millions of packet is how it started, and hundreds of thousands. I think I'm trying to remember, but it was at least 200. Yes. I mean, it's 50% packet, 50% Ethereum. So you're looking at, out of that 475,000, there's basically just shy of $250,000 worth of packet and $250,000 worth of Ethereum at these rates, at these prices, I should say. So it's a significant allocation. And if you're listening and you don't have any money in that LP, then it ain't your money. And we want to make sure that the people who have that money in there keep that money in there, because that's what's powering the project for sure. Even at this, and it's crazy, like even at this low price where the market cap's just 1.2 million, fully diluted 2 million, we still have $475,000. And so anybody who even has a large position and wants to sell, there's exit liquidity for them. And obviously the LP or the automatic market making will punish sellers on the way down. But and if you sold a large bag, you would certainly get a bad price for it. But yeah, it just provides people the means to sell off, $100 here, $200 there, $500 here, as you so choose. And certainly we saw a pretty good amount of selling into the airdrop. I mean, obviously, all those people are out, and what's about to happen, they'll certainly regret it, but it's all good. At least that money was there available for you to sell. Certainly can't say the same for most other projects in crypto, that get zeroed out.
Yeah, exactly.
Brutal, just brutal. So
we also need to keep in mind that the network steward's been a bit inactive.
Totally.
More just because nobody's applying to say, hey, I want to do this and get funded. Yeah. But there is a real need to complete the VPN. That's a key item on the list here, because I mean the ability to do what's it called domains, that's pretty significant right there. It's useful, but if we had the VPN, then I think that, and that's complicated. The VPN is complicated, but I think that would make the project quite a bit more attractive.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I wish I could use the VPN desperately. I use the VPN every day. It's just an absolute shame that we can't use it on iPhone, and that we don't have the app to use the technology that exists. It's like the biggest miss for me with the project is that a lot of the groundwork was laid, the network and infrastructure is there, and just the application and implementation specifically for iOS and desktop just wasn't completed. I know that kind of worked. I mean, I didn't really ever get to use it on Android because I don't have any Android, technology, but it certainly had been
Yeah,
created there,
getting from kind of works to works perfect
Yeah.
is obviously really complicated, really difficult. I think that the VPN on all of the desktop and mobile devices is probably a bit far out, but just having the ability to use a VPN like in like a buy a little product with Wi-Fi and it will do VPN. It will you plug it into the internet and it will set up a VPN for you, and you can just go on your dashboard and configure where that VPN is going to exit. Right.
Mhm.
That I think that would be a pretty big deal. Right. That alone would be quite useful. And then you can connect to it from with your Wi-Fi, and so it will work on every device because it's just connecting to it with Wi-Fi. It's just a piece of hardware. That might be a
Yeah,
future
I mean,
edge extender.
yeah, well, look, we've been talking about it for years. I mean, obviously, I would love to have that, and then also just like for me, from a more pedestrian standpoint, just a replacement of the apps that I use for VPN. I mean,
I use the Mini for my VPN straight up. Like it's a perfect VPN. I only use that. It'd be nice to have one for my phone.
That's what I mean. Yeah, on
For
my
my
phone.
computer, I just anytime I want to use a VPN, I have it always plugged in, and I just switch my network to my Mini network.
And where does it port you out to? What's the area that
I
you're?
think I have it for London because I like everything in English.
Yeah.
It's kind of my native language, so.
Yeah, that's dope. I mean,
Even
yeah.
Canada is like French, so I gotta.
Yeah, I don't know why I never used the Mini for VPN.
It's great.
That's
It's like
funny.
it's really
Like, I don't really use VPN, and my internet connection is in France.
Yeah.
But websites learn. Like everybody gives me everything in English.
Huh.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they learn you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Google's pretty good at that, but what I did, Jess, is I actually created a staff network,
Mm.
and so it's like password protected, so I don't have to like go through the captive portal. And yeah, it's a lovely little piece of technology we've
Yeah,
got.
that's cool. Yeah, no, I should do that. That's a great idea. It's absolutely a great idea. Yeah, I have the Mini. It's operating, and yeah, I think it's fantastic. It's so simple to use, and
Well, it ain't mining packet crypt, so might as well.
but it's still, yeah, it earns incrementally. I mean, it's still yielding.
It's still a node of the
Yeah,
network.
it's still Node. I still make a little bit off of it, just keeping it going. It's nothing crazy, but it's
Not a
still,
little bit. It's one of your nodes that's
yeah, that I have staked.
instead of running a server, you're running.
Yeah. No, it's definitely on and cracking. So that's certainly a piece of it. So I guess we could provide just a little update. We are in the due diligence phase. We have to obviously continue to be super coy about everything that we're doing, but in the due diligence phase on this acquisition, and time period for completion is targeted. Like the long stop date is, yeah, we're still on course for that prior to Halloween. That's still the period. So quite, a lot of pieces are coming together over the next week, and then we'll have, approximately another month to get everything tidied up, and to close the transaction. A lot of paperwork and stuff like that. But yeah, once this thing's done, we'll be able to start talking about it, and man, it's just so big. It's just so big. It's also felt good because it's definitely back in creates a bridge between, the kind of world of blockchain and crypto and entertainment, which is, where Josh's and my background is. And there's just a lot of big changes that are happening in the media and entertainment space right now. If you're kind of adjacently following, I mean, just some wild stuff that I've been reading about even in the last week, with what, for example, David Ellison's been doing in the marketplace. What a massive deal. I mean, if you come from mega wealth like that kid does, or your dad's was top 5, now was number 1, now back
Number
down
one.
to number 2.
Oh, because the Tesla just ran.
Yeah, because Oracle ran and he made like 100 billion in a day, and then Larry Ellison and became the number 1, and then like a day later, Elon announced like a share buyback, and it boosted the stock price back up. Actually, it's crazy. I saw about a month and a half ago a guy that I follow on Instagram. I think his handle is Sick Boy. Really, really good stock trader. Young guy, fucking driving a Maybach, just killing it in stock trading. And he gave out a free tip, and I wish I took it. He said to buy, I think it was $400 Tesla calls. When Tesla was down, it was like in the low 300s, not that long ago. And he's like, this thing's gonna go head back up towards, if it doesn't get to all-time high, it's definitely going back over 400. I think he made like a couple hundred G's on that trade. I mean, just buying those calls. He said what price to buy them at, and then you could sell them now for, well in the money. Or maybe they were higher and they're still out of the money, but you can still sell them for a huge, huge profit. So yeah, he called this Tesla pump majorly. But the interesting thing about the Ellison family is that they bought Paramount and CBS, which includes all of the broadcast license, includes Paramount Studios, includes BET, MTV, just a lot of it, Nickelodeon, a lot of those subsidiary brands and assets that are included, and they bought it for $8 billion. That money was mostly funded from a company called Redbird Capital, but presumably, David's dad probably threw some cash in, sprinkled a little money on it out of his
Shekels.
hundreds of billions of dollars worth of wealth. It's like a rounding error. And upon completing the purchase of about $8 billion, which included a $16 million payment to Trump to get rid of the lawsuit and to get FTC approval, the stock price has over doubled since the completion of the transaction of last month. So stock went from like, what was it? It was like $8, and now it's at like almost $18.
Yeah, I jumped in at $10.
What was, you jumped in at like 10. It went up to like 14 or 15. And then now, what happened actually, so I just was watching a Squawk Box on this yesterday. And what happened is Warner Brothers Discovery decided to do what they call a spin in, where they were going to take a bunch of their assets and, prepare them to be really heavily monetized in the streaming space. So you take like, I'm just making this up, but like the Food Network and, whatever their subsidiary brands and stuff that they own, and you kind of spin them all out. Or you spin them in. So they're like segregated from the main part of the business, and can bring in a bunch of team and staff to run that. And, but then I didn't catch this, but I just heard about it yesterday. Now they were talking about actually spinning off that company, which is called Versant. They put all those brands in there, and then they were going to actually potentially turn that into a separate company, maybe recapitalize it, maybe sell it. And so Paramount kind of jumped out and said, actually, we'll buy Warner Brothers, Warner Brothers Discovery, and we'll make a bid, like a $20 bid. I don't know what Warner Brothers was trading at before, but the stock price is up massively on this news that Paramount will make a bid, and they're jumping on it because they don't want Versant to spin off, and they don't want another party to be involved with it. So now they're coming in and saying, hey, we'll do potentially an all cash or mostly cash offer at a premium to the currently priced Warner Brothers stock to acquire the studio, all of its assets, and build a streaming behemoth. Concurrent to that, and that pumped the Paramount stock price from like $14 to $18 or $17.50.
What did
And
that
a
do?
lot of people are like, well, that's so weird, because if they were to acquire Warner Brothers, that would be a dilution event to Paramount shareholders. So technically, this stock should have gone down. However, what they're now looking at is this becoming just an absolute behemoth of a company where you have Paramount and Warner Brothers and Discovery, all the broadcast stations, all the sports. Warner Brothers includes HBO.
Warner Brothers jumped.
Yeah. Huge pump.
Yeah.
Huge pump. What's it at? Is that $18?
Yeah, 46% jump on Warner.
Yeah, 46%. So they were going to make like a bid around $20 per share. So that's why the stock launched up towards, now it's at $18 a share. You know who got really rich is Beamer's.
Yeah.
So yeah, crazy. He's probably thrilled.
Yeah.
But here's where it gets even crazier. So simultaneous to all of this, Trump has had a bone to pick with TikTok being a Chinese company. And so his administration has been pushing. I mean, first, he was the one who initially wanted to shut off TikTok. And then, he taco traded on that one. Now he's pushing for it to be domiciled in the United States. And there's this whole strategy around the algorithm would be licensed out from China. It would be licensed to the U.S. entity, and then the U.S. entity would, have a board that would be comprised of, mostly U.S. individuals. The government's going to have one selection for a board seat, and then ByteDance China would have a board position that would be in the minority, I believe.
And they bifurcate the data so that the U.S. customer data would be domiciled here in the U.S.
Right. And then this is where it gets interesting. So that the funding from that is coming partially from Larry Ellison.
Right.
And so what they're now saying is that there's the potential that David Ellison, Larry's son, could become the de facto owner of Paramount Studios, Warner Brothers Studios, all of its assets, Discovery, and TikTok, and build this new wave, media company that includes social media, all the various different brands, streaming technology, sports, etc. So
this explains why CBS has not been that political lately.
Yeah.
You see some bad takes. They're coming from ABC, and
it's really freedom of speech in America is certainly eroding. Because if you want to, because this administration is not about free speech, certainly has a huge problem. I mean, free speech gets you a $15 billion defamation lawsuit. So
but the other big problem is that if Paramount buys Warner Brothers, then you're going to have majority of the news in the U.S. Will be owned by one company.
Is that right? I don't know what all the.
You're going to have CNN, MSNBC, all that stuff.
MSNBC is. I don't know if MSNBC is part of Warner Brothers Discovery.
No?
But
Well, at least nobody watches the old media anymore. So
yeah, that's the crazy
that.
thing. Yeah, that's the crazy thing is that these traditional media. Well, look, CNN for sure is owned by Warner Brothers. We know that. And
It's by
and
Universal. You're right.
yeah, it's only Universal. NBC is the other one, but yeah, these brands. It's interesting because the viewership is down so badly. It's like Trump's always railing on these brands around
ratings,
um,
ratings.
around viewership. I think there's something wrong with the calculation though, because um, a lot of you can say, oh, no one's watching it. Yeah, no one is watching TV the way that we used to watch TV, but the clips do get chopped up and end up in social media. And I don't think that's tracked effectively. And so you'll see, depending on your bias, you'll see ABC, MSNBC, CNN, Fox, Breitbart, whatever these news stations that are part of your political bias will come through your feed. And so even if they say, oh, only 600,000 people are watching this show in primetime, yeah, that's because everyone cut the cord, but they're all on social media and they still get the clips. And yeah, so the way that people are viewing content has certainly changed. We're not sitting in front of, the TV at 6 p.m. watching the nightly news in the way that we used to. I think there's going to be a fundamental shift in the way that the news is portrayed and most likely funded as well. And part of the opportunity, I think, for shareholders of Paramount or Warner Brothers or whatever, is going to be the efficiencies of running all those brands under one overhead, because overhead's certainly, a huge expense. You start firing a bunch of people that are making, fire a couple thousand people making 200 grand a year, you're going to save a bunch of money. And other efficiencies that come from bringing multiple brands under one umbrella. But there's certainly some systemic changes that are going to come to the news side of things. But what you don't want to have happen is you don't want government news. Like that's the one thing you don't want, is because the government has their own narrative that they're, and you can see from this Trump administration, specifically in America, it's obviously different in different parts of the world, but they have a specific narrative, they have a specific story that they're trying to tell. And with all the executive orders, with hundreds and hundreds of executive orders, you can see how they're trying to push the country, the ideologies that they're trying to, portray. And so if you have, all these diverse voices across news that are pushing back or asking tough questions or, as which Trump calls defamation, then you end up, and especially when you have the government, litigating against people trying to seek out the truth or trying to question their reality. It's a really, really tough environment to operate in. I think obviously we know that preferentially you would have just right-wing media only, that would be the, the petri dish that Trump would want to live in and want America in, but that doesn't represent, all the diversity of the country. So I think it's just a really tough environment. And at this point, you get your news from your algorithm, and your algorithm is tuned to your bias. And it's it's creating. I was talking to a friend yesterday about it. It's creating extremism just because you only see the things that you like because you like things, and then it says, oh, you like that, or you watch that video to completion, so we're going to show you more of that video, and it sends you down a rabbit hole where you're just being essentially indoctrinated by your bias. And anybody who says things that you like and agree with, you're just going to see more of it until any other diverse point of view is almost filtered to nil in your daily environment. And as a result, that other point of view that you see a minority of becomes extreme to the other side. And then you become so involved in your own beliefs that people from the other side see you as extreme. And so I think that's why we're seeing these deep political divides in America. I actually think that the problem is not extremism. I think the problem is social media algorithms. I think algorithms are destroying the world for sure. I think it would be hard for people to argue against that point of view.
Trump has a major challenge with media because the way he came to power was based on decentralization of media. If it was just the TV, he would never have won the election. He won the election on the fact that TV gave way to the YouTubers and the all the little media, all the well, they're not little anymore. Like Joe Rogan is huge, but they were little to start out, and there's so many of them. And I think Trump, I mean, like anyone in power, Trump would love that there only be one media station or five, as it was in the 1950s and 60s. And I mean, you can say like it shouldn't be government news, but we all know that as long as there's like five companies running the news, it's a very, very easy phone call for the president to say, hey, we're talking about that defense contract with your company. Oh, and by the way, you have a media company. They keep saying bad stuff about us. Why is that? It's very easy. So the old model, you have like just a handful of companies. It used to be the big five, now it's shifting, it's changing up. That model very good for centralized power. Now you have decentralization comes in, that gets Trump elected, but it's not really that good for him because it doesn't give him that much power. So suddenly he gets elected, and then you have the same news that got him elected, people like Candace Owens and whatever saying stuff that he doesn't want to hear. So it's I mean, I think in the end, it's fairly healthy to have this decentralized churn of different opinions and media that's going on these days. And well, the downside is that there is some of it that is what incitement to violence, and that's not the kind of thing you want to have happen because there are going to be some people that take that seriously.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's no one who's incited more violence than the president. I mean, this guy's, talked about firing, squatting people. And I mean, I've never heard a politician ever speak so terribly about, with regards to violence and beating people up and shooting people and stuff. So, I mean, a little bit of reap what you sow there. I don't like that. And it's a shame to see that entering into the political sphere, because I think what people want to hear is just that it's okay to disagree, and not everyone's going to be on the same page, but like we're all for one, and everyone at the end of the day really just cares about health, some level of prosperity and their family, and in that case, no matter where you are around the world, everyone kind of wants the same thing. So it's frustrating to see that people get so caught up around some of these ideological threads that are so insignificant, and really don't, but people are so hung up on them. I mean, people that are, on topics that I'm like, I'll say, yeah, that's I hear your point of view on the topic, but do you know how many people that affects? A few thousand people in the world, like max. Shouldn't have it, ruin your day. You're not even involved in it. It doesn't even matter. Like, I'm thinking specifically about like the, men and women's sports. It's like, dude, it doesn't affect you. And it's just such a small issue. It's a ridiculous issue, but, it shouldn't be something you spend any time talking about, because you're not competing and it doesn't affect you personally. And if it affects anybody, it's such a small subset of the billions of people on the planet. It's like, how is that even a topic that we spend time talking about? But, especially when there's other more topical issues. But the cool thing, and the reason that we got on this kind of topic specifically around media and politics and stuff, is because if you think about ideologically what CJDNS represented, specifically around decentralization, and where we went into this world of websites and having domain names that are able to be able to stay on even under adversary from ISPs or from registrars. And so as we get into this next piece, which is on the streaming side of things, and kind of converging that with CJDNS, it's going to open up a lot of opportunity for global distribution and availability of various different opinions, and building out and utilizing this legacy brand that we're acquiring is going to create a real powerful platform to kind of, you could say, throw our hat in the ring in terms of distribution and accessibility of content. And so, in a world where Paramount and Warner Brothers and TikTok are all consolidating, we're going to enter in as a top 20, top 30 streaming platform on a global basis. And so that really puts an emphasis on what this will become, where we have such a small community that we're communicating with right now that will very quickly balloon into hundreds of thousands, if not imminently millions of people involved. And so the crypto side of the story is certainly part of our vision for providing data and revenue transparency. So that'll be one piece, and where I think Packet in particular can play a part in allowing people to purchase goods and services on this platform that we intend to build and launch next year. And so it'd just be a really cool moment for people who weathered the storm and stayed involved with the project for all these years to see it become something, one of the bigger things that's come out of crypto, in our humble opinion, yet to be proven, but that's kind of the vision and grandiose goal at the end of the day. So, as we always say at the end of these convos, stay tuned, stand by. Thanks for tuning in, and it should be, keep the fun going.
Yeah, totally. I mean, it'll be interesting for sure. This is going to be I was just messaging with, one of our long-term investors, and it's, we're very coy on what we're doing, and, staying very quiet. It's kind of like wait and see, but it is really a wait and see. And I think people are going to be very impressed with what we've accomplished with this. I know our, core investors are, and that know what's going on, that are kind of looking on the inside of the fold. And so, yeah, it's very much stay tuned. But this next few months is going to be extremely exciting, especially once we can start talking about this.
Yeah, for sure. Because I think once we start talking about it, people are going to pile in. And so what our intention is once we are able to announce it, I want to bring on a team that will be involved with helping us manage the crypto side of things, and also, both from not just like a traditional kind of generic marketing standpoint, but from a communications and publicity standpoint. And because it's not just about like marketing, like, oh, come and buy a packet, but it's like telling the story about what it is. And I think that story is so compelling that it should build a lot of intrigue into what the project is. I would say, I mean, looking at those charts that you were just showing on the stock for Warner Brothers and Paramount upon announcing some of these big power moves, we should definitely see an increase like that as people go, whoa, this is the bottom for sure. So, we haven't even started talking to people in our community about it, because frankly, we don't want to let those people buy at the bottom. We want to buy at the bottom. So, but the people that are, fortunate enough to listen in, 100 people who listen in on these every single Wednesday, it's your opportunity to grab things early. And then come, end of October, when we announce it, we'll see some serious movement. That's when things will really start to pop off. So anyhow, we can leave it there. It's great hanging with y'all.
Yeah.
And, see you guys next Wednesday.
See you then.